Glen Barrows International Pest Control provides a comprehensive approach for a pest-free environment for both residential and commercial clients. Our services include lawn spraying and fungus control services to ensure the safety of your family and pets, commercial pest and rodent control, pre-construction soil treatment, subterranean termite control, and tent fumigation. Call Glen Barrows International Pest Control at 465-2935 or 469-5294. Glen Barrows International Pest Control, setting new standards in pest control.
With news from across the Federation, spanning the region and covering the globe, this is the KyssFM SKN News Now Morning Edition, your one true source for news. And now your presenter.
Good morning. Today is Friday, 10th February 2017. I'm Leslie Joseph. This is the SKN News Now Morning Edition, brought to you with the kind compliments of Glen Barrows Pest Control and Guest House. These are the top stories this hour. Nationally, crime reduction specialist Dr. Niels Chaitan gets poor reviews following his presentation at the National Crime Symposium. Regionally, Brazilian police have gone on strike. Internationally, the U.S. Appeals Court upholds the Trump travel ban suspension. And in sport, the World Anti-Doping Agency's job is fighting to stay a step ahead of cheaters. Now for a look at the stories in detail. Crime is a matter that must be addressed holistically. This is the position of chairperson of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, Honorable Marcella Liburd, who this morning shared her feedback on yesterday's National Crime Symposium at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort. In making her point, Ms. Liburd highlighted an important factor necessary for crime reduction tactics to be successful: civilian confidence in law enforcement agencies.
I went on to make the point that, to me, and that's not something which I heard from what the presenter was saying, one of the main things in terms of addressing crime has to be that various communities and the people would have to have confidence in the police. Because even if you put in all the things that people are suggesting, even if you put them in place and the people have no confidence in the police and the security forces, nothing is going to happen. And so I made that point and then said that one of the reasons why people may not have confidence is because of the politicization of the police force. And I made reference to the fact that as soon as the government changed, the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, at his very first meeting with the police, had a political meeting, and among other things, basically said, we get rid of them. And you had police officers clapping and shouting. It was not about fighting crime, but about politics. And so I was asking the question, how are we to have any confidence when it seems to me that it's just politicization of the police force?
Meanwhile, Dr. Niels Chaitan's presentation at Thursday's National Crime Symposium seems to have fallen short of its original purpose, to examine the root causes of crime and violence in St. Kitts and Nevis. Appearing as keynote speaker at the symposium, Dr. Chaitan's presentation was full of anecdotes, most of which shared no relationship with the root causes of crime and violence specific to St. Kitts and Nevis.
They tell me that there's so much monkeys in St. Kitts and Nevis. Have you seen one ton of manners yet? I haven't seen one. I believe, Mr. Prime Minister, pardon me, sir, I got to quote the scripture. Psalm 130. And I tell young people in schools, Psalm 139:14 say, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Don't go and tell children they came from monkeys. But hold a second. We don't tell them they come from monkeys. But what do? We call them kids. That's a baby goat. 4-legged creature. And kids, when they grow, they sometimes end in the curry Oh, yeah, you got that right. Kids can't sit down and do math. Have you ever seen a kid? I just came from St. Paul's and drive on the eastern side of the island right down. That's in Tabernacle, sir. And I saw kids scampering everywhere. You can't grab their attention. Poor mom is bleating for them to come, and they're not coming. They're kids. They're animals. You call our children kids? Don't you know that it could be a downward spiral? It could be self-fulfilling prophecy, educator. And when they can't sit down to look at you and talk to you, you wonder what's happened. And however, Americans in the urban cities, and we develop it. What's up, dog? What's up, dog? And we joke about it. When I took a shower this morning, I see no tail behind me.
In one instance, Dr. Chaitan condemned exotic dancing clubs and attempted to make a correlation between their existence and the concept of respect for women.
I hope you don't have strip joints here. Uh-oh, somebody's laughing. They know one somewhere. Shut that down, man. Let's get respect for women. Women, your body is not a product for sale. Don't bother with North America and Europe. Your body is not something for sale. Your body is the body of a beautiful, God-made ebony princess. Come on here. Tell our girls that. Yeah, thank you, ladies. Thank you. You're looking at me as though you know what I'm saying here. We got to put value in our children. Because when they go outside, folks, they got everybody's child around them in a group. And they're going to be pressuring your child. You got to be resolved. Because the adventure and curiosity of youthfulness could make us do what we don't want to do.
Addressing Chaitan's contribution to the National Crime Symposium, Honorable Marcella Liebert expressed her disappointment at the lack of actual recommendations made by Dr. Chaitan. According to Ms. Liebert, the crime reduction specialist, international social skills consultant, and motivational speaker had provided no new recommendations in respect of curbing crime in the Federation.
The presenter, he dealt mainly with social and to some extent economic reasons for crime. A lot of them we have heard before, and so it was just like why people do crime, you know, like a parenting and all the other social and economic things about poverty, etc. However, we thought that if you're going to deal with crime, you have to deal with it in a holistic way. There were no recommendations. He made no recommendations in his presentation. And in the general discussion, he was asked about that, and we learned that seemingly that was not part of his remit. And so they were looking to the group session, which was to come up with these recommendations to what was said.
Regionally, more than 100 murders have occurred in Brazil over the past 6 days following a police strike. Officers in Brazil have downed their tools over demands for better pay.
My father is coming to pick me up. I'm leaving. I won't stay here.
There's been a drop in customers, and we've also seen problems with trying to leave certain areas. There are no buses, there's no security for getting home safely. Business is complicated.
Dressed with a hat apparently to conceal his identity, a wheelchair-bound man accused of murdering a Durban Street waitress and wounding former magistrate Fazil Aziz was remanded to prison on Wednesday. Javon Vickery was at the courthouse and filed this report.
The Better Hope man arrived in the cabin of the police van in a wheelchair, while relatives of the slain woman hurled remarks. In Court 3 of the Georgetown Magistrates Court, George was accused of murdering Deborah Blackman, who was a waitress at a Chinese restaurant in Durban Street, Wortmanville, on August 23, 2014. In addition, George was also charged with discharging a loaded firearm at former magistrate Mohammed Fazil Aziz with intent to commit murder. Attorney Melville Duke, who represented George exclusively on the murder charge, explained that his client suffers from a spinal injury after being shot in neighboring Suriname. The attorney argued that there was no eyewitnesses to the crime for which George was charged, adding that the 3-year-old video evidence was of poor quality. Bail was refused, and George is to make his next court appearance on February 16. The robbery matter will be heard at the Sparndam Magistrates Court.
On the international scene, a U.S. federal appeals court on Thursday refused to reinstate President Donald Trump's ban on travelers from seven predominantly Muslim nations. The appeals court panel said the government had not shown a likelihood of success on the merits of its appeal, nor had it shown that failure to enter a stay would cause irreparable injury.
The 3-judge panel from the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco unanimously declined to block a lower court ruling that suspended the ban and allowed previously barred travelers to enter the United States. Shortly after the court announced its decision, President Trump tweeted, "See you in court. The security of our nation is at stake." Later, he told reporters at the White House that the court made a political decision that jeopardized national security.
We have a situation where the security of our country is at stake, and it's a very, very serious situation. So we look forward, as I just said, to seeing them in court. We're going to win the case.
At a news conference in Seattle, Bob Ferguson, the Attorney General for the state of Washington, which argued against restoring the travel ban, called the appellate court ruling a victory for the U.S. Constitution.
We are a nation of laws. Those laws apply to everybody in our country, and that includes the President of the United States.
U.S. Attorney General August Flentier argued that Trump's executive order was well within the President's power granted by Congress and the Constitution. But Washington State Solicitor General Noah Purcell said reinstating the travel ban without a full judicial review would throw the country back into chaos. The case may well end up in the Supreme Court.
The European Union and the United States have both initiated trade investigations into Chinese products this year. 1/3 of the world's recent trade investigations have been against China. Mariam Zaidi has more from Brussels.
Opportunity or threat? Could the byproduct of Donald Trump's protectionist agenda help redefine a new era of economic cooperation between the European Union and China? The world's second biggest economy, which already does more than $1 billion in daily trade with Europe, could potentially profit from a changing world order. In Brussels, the EU Trade Commissioner Cecilia Malmström has mused over the possibility of Europe standing shoulder to shoulder with China to fight global protectionism, but only if trade is fair.
It's difficult for Europe to have one single voice, and that's been so far one of the major problems we had. I would like to see much more pragmatic Europe, focused Europe, business Europe. There are many areas where Europe and China can cooperate.
We have the right to protect our industry from unfair competition.
Brussels has a long-practiced trade defence system against China. It does not recognise it as a market economy and applies anti-dumping tariffs on cheap Chinese goods, namely steel. But even with those in place, Chinese investment into the EU tops $40 billion, whereas EU investment into China fell to a 10-year low of about $8 billion last year. Can Europe level the playing field?
The question is, what are we going to do with the comprehensive agreement on investment that we're negotiating right now with the Chinese? So far, the Chinese offers of opening up the Chinese market have been far from satisfactory.
Just in the last week, the European Council President Donald Tusk named China, along with the US and Russia, as external threats to the EU. So whether the Trade Commissioner Malmström's comments can in fact mark the start of a new era of cooperation between China and the EU remains to be seen.
And now we take a look at sport. The World Anti-Doping Agency is at the forefront of the fight against drugs in sport. Their job, however, is not an easy one, as there is always a struggle for science and a technology to remain one step ahead of cheaters.
The World Anti-Doping Agency is at the forefront of the fight against drugs in sport. It sets out the ground rules and procedures, tests athletes for doping and regularly updates its list of prescribed substances. Specific drugs like anabolic steroids are banned at all times, while other substances are only prohibited during competition or for certain sports. For example, beta blockers are banned in archery and shooting because they help keep the heart rate low and hands steady. Blood doping is one of the most effective ways of illegally improving performance and endurance, and is particularly prolific in professional cycling. Certain techniques, taking the blood-boosting hormone EPO, synthetic oxygen carriers and blood transfusions can be used to boost levels of oxygen-carrying hemoglobin. Increasing red blood cell count means more oxygen reaches muscles, increasing stamina and performance. While EPO and synthetic oxygen carriers can be detected, some types of blood transfusion are harder to trace, for example when athletes infuse their own blood. Detection methods include measuring total hemoglobin mass or testing for plasticizers, which are byproducts of the container the blood was stored in. As doping becomes more sophisticated, the athlete biological passport is a key tool in trying to track down cheaters. Athletes are monitored throughout the season and certain markers are regularly measured. For example, heart rhythms, fat-to-weight ratios, blood and urine levels. Any irregular biological changes outside permissible limits will indicate the strong possibility that illegal substances are present in the athlete's system. But even this program isn't perfect. Small frequent use of EPO, testosterone or even insulin known as microdosing can circumvent biological passports.
And that item brings us to the end of the KyssFM SKN News Now Morning Edition, brought to you with the kind compliments of Glenbarrow's Pest Control and Guest House. Join us again at 5:45 for our comprehensive evening news package. I am Leslie Joseph.
Glenbarrow's International Pest Control provides a comprehensive approach for a pest-free environment for both residential and commercial clients. Our services include lawn spraying and fungus control services to ensure the safety of your family and pets, commercial pest and rodent control, pre-construction soil treatment, subterranean termite control, and tent fumigation. Call Glenbarrow's International Pest Control at 465-2935 or 469-5294. Glenbarrow's International Pest Control, setting new standards in pest control.